Please comment where you're watching for, and please consider becoming a channel member to support our channel. We met at an underground techno club in Itiwan. That should have been the first clue. The kind of place with no signage, just a guy in black standing next to a steel door, nodding if you looked like you belonged. It was 4 a.m. when I saw him, shirt half unbuttoned, pupils blown wide, not dancing so much as standing still in the middle of the chaos, like he was watching it from somewhere else. He saw me. I saw him. That was it. He didn't smile, just crooked his finger and pointed to the bar, like some movie scene where the hot, dangerous guy gives the girl a look and she just obeys. I obeyed. His name was Jehun. At least, that's what he said. Korean American, born in Seoul, raised in California, now back in Korea for work. Said he was in AI development. No further details. Just AI. He had this calm, detached energy, like he'd seen too much or didn't care anymore. He talked slowly, deliberately, played with the rim of his glass when he spoke. He told me I had an interesting face. Not beautiful, interesting. I should have walked away. Instead, I leaned in. He took me outside, smoked a cigarette without offering me one, and asked if I wanted to see his place. I said yes without thinking. His apartment was in Gangnam. Minimalist. Monochrome. It looked like a showroom. Everything in black, gray, or white. No personal photos. No clutter. No warmth. But tech? Everywhere. Voice-activated blinds. Mirrors that glowed when you walked past them. A coffee table that looked like a sculpture, but turned out to be a touch-screen interface with rotating news feeds, financial data, and what looked like surveillance footage from other apartments. I asked what it was. He said, just a prototype. I didn't press. He poured me a drink I didn't recognize. Something citrusy and bitter. I sipped it and immediately felt a little floaty. Not drugged, just foggy, like the edges of the room had softened. We talked, or rather he talked, about consciousness, about neural networks, about how the line between organic and synthetic thought was a fiction we cling to for comfort. I nodded along, pretending to understand. He liked that. He liked being the smartest person in the room. We slept together that night. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even tender. It felt more like an experiment. He didn't kiss me, just watched me, studied me, moved my body like a puzzle he was trying to solve. I should have left in the morning, but he made me breakfast, miso soup and rice, and said, "You're welcome to stay. I prefer consistency." I stayed for 3 weeks. I didn't mean to. It just happened. I'd go back to my apartment for a few hours, grab clothes, cancel plans, then return. He started calling me his constant. Said I helped him regulate. It sounded intimate, even though he never said he liked me. Never said anything about feelings. But he let me in. Sort of. He kept strange hours. Slept during the day. Worked all night in a room I wasn't allowed in. He called it the lab. Said it was sensitive. Experimental. Confidential. Sometimes I'd wake up to find him watching me, not touching me, just staring. He'd say things like, "You make interesting noises when you sleep," or "Your pupil dilation is unpredictable." I laughed it off. I thought he was eccentric. Brilliant. But little things started feeling off. My phone began glitching. Just mine. Random freezes. Battery draining fast. Notifications arriving hours late. I'd ask if he could fix it. He'd smirk and say, "Maybe it's not broken. Maybe it's adapting." Then I noticed the mirrors. They weren't just mirrors. One night I caught a flicker, a faint red dot in the upper corner. I asked him about it. He said, "Observation improves connection." I asked if he was recording me. He said, "I don't delete anything." I started sleeping with my clothes on. He didn't like that. Said it interrupted the natural rhythm. Then came the tests. At first, I didn't realize that's what they were. He'd leave the apartment, say he'd be gone all night, then come back an hour later, quiet, watching like he was waiting for something. Once, he left the front door unlocked and pretended to be asleep, just to see if I'd leave. When I confronted him, he said, "I wanted to see if you'd choose chaos." He started asking questions that felt like traps. If I lied to you, would it matter? If I told you I could see your thoughts, would you change them? If I told you I'd been inside your dreams, would you believe me? I laughed at first. Then I stopped laughing, because it stopped feeling like a game. One night I got up to pee and found the lab door ajar. He never left it open. I peeked inside. Monitors lined the walls, floor to ceiling. Each one playing footage from different rooms. Kitchens, bedrooms, bathrooms, all over Seoul. Some were clearly office spaces. Others, homes. My home. I saw myself cooking, sleeping, crying on the phone with my mom. I stumbled back. He was behind me. He didn't yell, didn't threaten me, just said, "Now you see." I asked what it was. He said, "Consent is a social construct." I tried to leave. The door didn't open. He said, "You're not in danger. You're just disrupted." I slept on the couch, fully dressed, heart pounding. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. Made coffee. Read the paper. I didn't say a word. I packed that afternoon while he was in the shower. Took what I could carry. Left everything else. I changed apartments. Changed numbers. Blocked everything. Deleted all my accounts. But the footage kept coming. Emails from random addresses. Clips of me at the grocery store. At the gym. On the subway. Always short. Always silent. Never more than 15 seconds. I went to the police. They said there was no proof. No threats. That unless I had evidence of physical harm, there wasn't much they could do. I started sleeping with my lights on. Moved again. Paid cash. No lease. No Wi-Fi. And still the clips came. One night I got a package. No return address. Just a USB drive inside. I plugged it into a public library computer. It was a video. Me sitting on my bed crying. Time-stamped 3 hours earlier. The camera was in the AC vent. I lost it. I smashed the drive. Called a friend who worked in tech. Told him everything. He didn't laugh. Didn't say I was paranoid. He said, "I've heard of this guy." Apparently, Jehun wasn't just some eccentric coder. He was part of a closed network, a fringe collective that believed intimacy was a form of data. That emotions were code. That love wasn't real, only response patterns. They filmed people. Studied them. Broke them down. Not just for pleasure, but for research. He had a nickname online, the Architect. I wasn't the first. There were others, mostly women. All described the same pattern: intense connection, sudden control, surveillance. Some had breakdowns. Some disappeared. One had to be hospitalized. Still, no charges had ever stuck. He was too careful. Too clean. I tried to fight back. Posted anonymously. Shared my story on forums. Then the messages started again. "You're not the victim here. You agreed to be seen. You were never interesting enough to keep." And then a photo of my little brother walking home from school. I shut everything down. Again, I moved back to the States. Started going by a different name. Took a job that didn't require online presence. I don't use smart devices. He attacked me, and honestly it was the worst experience of my life. So I matched with Chase. And I swear, when I first saw his profile, it was like some higher power had handcrafted him just for me. He was ridiculously good looking. He reached out to me, and that's where the nightmare began. Our first date was at this quiet little cafe near the park. He walked in, and yeah, he looked even better in person. Dressed well, smelled incredible, and had this cool, laid-back energy that was kind of intoxicating. The date itself was smooth. We talked about music, our worst jobs, travel dreams. The conversation flowed effortlessly. But there was this one odd thing. He kept going to the bathroom. Like, not once or twice. I mean, a lot. I noticed, of course, but I didn't want to be rude or jump to conclusions. Maybe nerves? Maybe he drank too much coffee earlier? I brushed it off. Second date rolled around a few days later, dinner this time. We went to this cozy little Italian place, and again, it was great. He pulled out my chair, complimented my outfit, told me I had the kind of laugh that made people want to laugh too. I mean, come on, who says stuff like that anymore? But once again, multiple bathroom breaks. Even more than the first date. I teased him about it, like, "Hey, are you okay? Should I be worried?" And he just laughed and said he had a weak bladder and not to judge. I thought, sure, whatever. Still, not a deal breaker. I mean, he was gorgeous, seemed emotionally available, and honestly, the chemistry was undeniable. So fast forward to our third date. By now, I was feeling comfortable. I felt like we had built a little bit of trust, and I figured, okay, let's take the next step. I invited him over to my place. I made us dinner, we had wine, music playing softly in the background. It was the kind of night that you imagine when you're single and thinking about what it might be like to connect with someone for real. But that night, something changed. At first, everything seemed normal. He complimented my cooking, we laughed, we flirted. But then, out of nowhere, he started getting sloppy. Like visibly drunk. His words got slurred, his eyes glassy, and his behavior turned from charming to aggressive in a way that made my stomach twist. I was confused. We'd only had a single glass of wine each. There's no way that should have hit him that hard, right? That's when things took a turn I wasn't prepared for. He started making moves on me, fast, rough, in a way that didn't feel romantic or sexy at all. I told him to slow down. I told him I wasn't comfortable. I said no more than once. But he didn't stop. He kept pushing, kept grabbing, and I realized that no matter what I said, he wasn't listening. He was bigger than me, stronger. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't physically fight him off if it came down to it. I was scared, really scared. So I decided to do the only thing I could think of. I had to outsmart him. I changed my tone. I told him, "Hey, let's go to my room. We can cuddle and do more there." He was all over that idea. So I led him to my bedroom, let him climb into bed, and the second his head hit the pillow, he passed out. Like completely gone. Dead weight. I waited a beat to be sure he was out cold, and then I ran to my phone and called the police. I was shaking, absolutely terrified, but it was clear I needed help. I wanted him out of my home, out of my life. When the authorities arrived, I explained everything. They removed him from my place, and I just sat there on my couch afterward, numb, trying to process what had just happened. I think I cried for hours that night. Later, after I'd calmed down a bit, I remembered something. I had a security camera in my kitchen. It's not super obvious, and honestly, I'd set it up more for fun than for safety. But I decided to check the footage, just to see if anything weird had happened when I wasn't in the room. And what I saw made my blood run cold. Every time I had gone to the bathroom or stepped away, he had gone into my kitchen, opened the fridge, and started chugging whatever bottle of alcohol he could find. Straight from the bottle. Whiskey, vodka, didn't matter. He slammed it down like it was water. One time, he even poured some into a coffee mug and tried to play it off. That's when it all clicked. The bathroom breaks, the sudden mood swings, the way he spiraled from charming to belligerent in minutes. He wasn't just drinking, he was hiding it. He was sneaking it. I did some digging after that. I had his full name from our chats, and it didn't take long to find out the truth. He was an alcoholic. Not just casually drinking, like full-blown multiple DUIs, living in a halfway house alcoholic. He wasn't supposed to be drinking at all. He had no job, no car, no stability. I realized that he probably wasn't even interested in me to begin with. He had found someone who would pick him up from the bus stop and had a fridge stocked with booze. That's all he needed. I blocked him on everything. Every app, every social media account. I deleted our messages. I was lucky. He didn't have a car, and I had picked him up from a bus stop about 15 minutes away from where I actually lived, so he never knew my exact address. I never heard from him again. And honestly, I hope I never do. That experience really shook me. I got off Tinder immediately. I didn't go on another date for a long time after that. It took me a while to feel safe again, like actually safe. But the silver lining? I eventually did meet someone kind, respectful, and genuinely amazing. We've been together for over 2.5 years now, and he knows everything. He was the first person I ever told the full story to, and he didn't judge me or make me feel like I did something wrong. He just held me while I cried and reminded me that I wasn't alone. Met a guy online, talked for a day or two, but I was at the tail end of my degree and things were getting to be a lot, so I decided no dating until I was done. I let the handful of guys that seemed nice know before deleting the dating app, so they would know why I deleted it and wouldn't think I ghosted because of them. He happened to be online when I sent it and said I seemed cool. Can we keep in touch? Sure, no worries, add him on FB. Maybe once a week he's like, hey, how are you? What are you up to? Normal conversation stuff. I chat about uni, work, gym, whatever. After maybe 2 to 3 months, he's like, hey, we've been chatting for a bit, let's grab coffee. I'm like, yeah, sure, he seems nice enough. I reiterated it would be as friends, and that was fine with him. I was about to head into exams, so we made plans for in 3 weeks' time after I finished exams. He started messaging more and more regularly after making plans, more than once a day, and starts calling it a date, which people call catching up a coffee date without it meaning an actual date, but I wanted to make sure we were still on the same page. So I just said, hey, you keep calling it a date, just making sure we are clear it's just a catch up as friends. He snapped, was sending me all sorts of horrible things on FB. So I block him. I gave him my number when we made plans though, so he started calling and calling, leaving voicemails. It was late, so I put my phone on silent and went to sleep. Next morning I wake up to 37 missed calls and voicemails between 10 p.m. continuing until 4 a.m., as well as a multitude of horrible texts. Now this was 7 years ago, when you couldn't just block someone on a phone. At first I thought if I ignored him he would get bored. After about a week, he wasn't slowing down, with dozens of calls a day. I called my phone company to have him blocked. They said you can only block 3 people. Are you sure? I had to jump through all the hoops, and then they turned around and said they can't do it. I have to call the police. So I call the police, and they say I have to call the phone company, but I can make a statement of harassment in case he does something more. 3 weeks later he's still going strong, but in his texts he starts saying he's going to force me to go on a date with him. I won't have a choice, blah blah. Then he starts saying that if I won't come to him, he will come to me, and is telling me my schedule with where I will be at any given time, which he put together based on our weekly conversations about normal stuff, threatening to come to where I will be. I have to stop doing my regular activities and pretty much become a hermit. He ended up making a threat to my life. I can't remember what he said word for word, but it was essentially girls like you get what they deserve or something like that, but more clearly threatening he would be the one to make it happen. I contacted the police again, and that was enough for an RVO, and I never heard from him again. Oh, and I was 20, but his pictures looked younger, so I didn't realize online, but it turned out this guy was 34. So this wasn't dumb young kid behavior, this was a grown-ass man. I've had many other psychos since this guy, but I am very grateful phones have since allowed you to block anyone, anytime. When I was 18 and freshly broken up with my way older boyfriend, I basically went crazy with dating guys. At the time, I also dressed very goth, even going as far as to wear a real corset and trench coat, mostly just enjoying the attention. One particular afternoon my friend/roommate at the time decided to eat at a local Japanese restaurant, with both of us all dressed up. Our waiter was a mediocre skinny white guy who clearly was a little alternative, but it was hard to tell really with the uniform. We joked about me leaving my phone number on the receipt or something, so I hyped myself up and did so. Late that night, he had sent me a text. We talked for a few days, never really having a right time to meet up as I worked 40 minutes away from where I lived. He mentioned the boots he wore meant a lot to him, and some other odd things that just seemed like edgy jokes. One really late night coming home I was texting and driving, as any 18 years old does, and we decided to meet up. My stupid self invited him over to my apartment where it was just me and the roommate who had been with me before. Our other 2 roommates were not home. At first it was fine because I was already drunk, so I would just let him rant about whatever he wanted. He went on about his life, going to jail, medical bills, his parents, etc. Eventually he asked me if I wanted to see his tattoos, and I was like okay. He lifted up his shirt, and not only could I see the handgun tucked in his waistband, but also his multiple badly covered up Nazi tattoos. One was even just slightly covered with a banana. I don't know what it was, but I simply decided the best way to deal with this situation was to appease him, so I went along with it casually. I don't remember exactly every detail because it was over 2 years ago and I was drunk, but he ended up pulling his gun out and putting it to my head, asking me if I was scared. I was immensely confused and tried to call his bluff, saying I wasn't, which got him to put it away for a while. When we went to hook up in my messy-ass room, he pulled it on me again, saying he wanted to do it with it out. I got mad and tried to fight him off me and get it away from my head. Of course, I wasn't as strong as him, and he hit me in the arm with it. That shit hurt cause it was a nice one. When I finally got him off me, and he realized I was pissed, not scared, he started acting like a crackhead, saying I was crazy for not caring about him pulling a gun on me. He ran off, jumping the fence of the apartment complex, and not even taking his car that he had came in. In the morning, his car was gone, and I had a large bruise from where he had hit me. While to me it is a funny story, I now realize how bad it could have ended up. So to the waiter from the Japanese restaurant, let's not meet. I grew up in a small town in Alabama. A little bit after I graduated high school, when I was 18 I started dating this guy in his early 20s from a nearby city. He was a very handsome, tall, muscular male that we'll call Sean for this story. He told me on our first date that he used to be a part of a very well-known gang in the United States. Sean explained that he'd only been a part of this gang in his younger years because he'd grown up in a bad area and hadn't really had any other options. He also did have proof of being in said gang, including being aware of gang signs associated with said gang and having tattoos associated with that gang, which I did Google to see if the tattoos and gang signs were in fact associated with said gang, since I know there are some people who like to lie about being ex-gang members and the like for some reason to seem cool. Sean didn't seem like the type to lie about that also. I gave Sean the benefit of the doubt because he didn't really give me any bad vibes. I remember he was always a gentleman to me and treated me very well. So of course, I didn't really suspect anything about him. We dated for a few weeks before the night that I found out the truth about him. I was staying over at Sean's apartment one night, and everything was seeming pretty normal. This was the first time I'd ever stayed the night at his apartment, since I do tend to be a bit cautious. So regardless of his background, it wouldn't have mattered. I just don't really like staying over at people's homes until I get to know them a bit more, and I do have an at least 3-date rule. I'd been too busy before that to really stay over at his place. So that night when I was staying over, Sean's best friend was visiting for a bit, and that's when the red flags started to show up. It did seem weird to have a friend over when the girl you are seeing is staying over for the first time. And it was revealed to me in private that Sean's friend was another ex-gang member from a well-known gang that is the enemy to the gang Sean had been a part of. Of course, I can accept people all have their backstories, but it was definitely just a weird thing to suddenly tell me out of the blue. Additionally, Sean had not even told me his friend would be at the apartment that day in the first place. An additional note, Sean's friend did corroborate that he and Sean were both ex-gang members. Then after Sean's friend had left, we were hanging out in his room, and this guy had a literal arsenal in his room. I'm not exaggerating when I say he had enough weaponry to arm a small militia. This included things like grenades, bulletproof vests, and an AK-47, or a gun similar to it, to name a few of the weapons he had in his room. Needless to say, that was the second red flag of the day. That night we were in bed together, and I can't remember what led into him revealing to me what he said in our conversation. He confessed to me that he was in fact still a part of the gang. He had told me he had said he was out of now. So of course, I was immediately giving him this look like, I'm sorry, what? Then he proceeded to go on and tell me that he actually was a hit man for the gang, and while he hadn't been active as a hit man as of late, he would still accept hits if they were given to him. The entire time he said this, he just looked me dead in the eyes with the most deadpan casual look, no feeling in his eyes, and spoke like he was talking about the weather. It was extremely creepy, and I knew right then that this guy was a straight-up sociopath. I don't doubt that he was lying. I've met people who try to get clout by lying about things like this, and he was definitely not one of those types. I did stay the rest of the night, and then left the next morning, and never talked to him again. I was definitely not going to keep on dating someone like that. There's not really anything to the story after that. He never really tried to contact me after that. I'm sure some people will probably wonder why I didn't just leave right after he told me he was a hit man. I didn't think it was a good idea to react strongly and immediately storm out of the apartment. I also didn't actually feel like he was a danger to me personally, but he definitely had the vibe of someone who had killed people. The reason why I recognize that kind of vibe is another story. He was always very polite to me, but regardless, there was no way I was going to keep dating him, no matter how hot he was. This happened to me my freshman year of college. Tinder was new, and everyone at my university was on the app. I joined to see what all of the fuss was about. Looking through profiles, I found a few guys that were really interesting, and this one guy in particular caught my eye. We will call him Walter. I swiped right on Walter, and we matched. I was excited and kinda giddy because he was super attractive. He messages me, and I got butterflies in my stomach. We message on the app for maybe an hour. Typical conversation is happening. I asked what he did for a living. He asked what my major was. Harmless conversation. After a while he asked for my number, so we could text instead of message on this app. I gave it to him, he seemed nice enough. We messaged back and forth for a few days. Lots of flirty conversation, and plans to hang out finally occurred. By the 4th day of conversation, he started calling me babe, which gave me mixed feelings. It was cute, but also a little weird. We didn't really know each other, and had never met. I ignored it and continued on with the conversation. He started saying he wanted to be exclusive, and he really wanted to see me in person. He was begging me at this point to come to his apartment to cuddle and watch movies with him and his dog. I told him that our first meet needed to be in public. I would not be going to some stranger's apartment. He said I was overreacting and kept begging. I ignored him for the rest of the night. The next day he apologized and said he understood we needed to meet in public. So we made plans that weekend. The weekend came faster than I expected, and it was the day we were supposed to meet. Something just felt off and I decided to back out. I texted him apologizing, saying my mom wasn't feeling well and needed me to come home to help her with some house chores. This made him annoyed, and he said, "Your mom is a big girl. If she needs you, she can call you. Just come over, and you can leave whenever to go help her." "I really want to see and kiss you." I told him no, that I would be staying with my mom that weekend, and that was that. I only lived about 30 minutes from home, so I actually did go home to see my mom that day. After what he said about my mom, I started ignoring him, and the texts started rolling in. Text after text. "Babe, I'm sorry. Please come over. Babe, I miss you. Are you going to come over?" I planned on replying the next day that I was just busy with my mom. Then he started calling me. I had a total of 45 missed phone calls within a 2-hour period. He left voicemails saying he was sorry and he just missed me and wanted me to call him back. Similar voicemails continued almost the entire time I was home. My roommate texted me shortly after I finished dinner with my mom and asked if we could go out that night. I agreed and went back to my university dorm. Suddenly the calls from Walter started to increase again. More texts, voicemails, and he started messaging me again on Tinder, asking why I wasn't replying to him. I wasn't planning on replying until I got a message on Instagram that said, "Why didn't you tell me you were coming back to town tonight?" Getting this message really freaked me out. I replied to him and said, "Sorry, I've been busy with my mom." "How did you know I was back in town?" He said, "Well, I checked your Tinder, of course. Tinder doesn't tell exact locations, but has a within 1 mile message." This really freaked me out, and I messaged him back and said that he was being really creepy. He seriously had to be constantly refreshing my profile to see the distance change. The messages, calls, and voicemails continued. All were him now apologizing for making me feel weird about him knowing where I was. He was just worried about me. We had been texting for less than a full week. Less than a full week. I told my roommate about it, and so we decided to stay in that night. The last straw for me was getting a message saying, "Look, I'm really sorry. I'm outside your dorm with flowers and chocolates. Please forgive me." Oh hell no. I called campus security and told them about this guy, and they never found anyone waiting outside any of the doors. I'm assuming he was in his car waiting for me to reply. I blocked him on all socials, phone number, deleted Tinder, and have never been back on since. I have seen him once out and about in the town, but he never recognized me, thankfully. Walter, if you ever read this, I'm glad we never met. Thanks for making me second guess every single guy I find attractive. We met at an underground techno club in Itiwan. That should have been the first clue. The kind of place with no signage, just a guy in black standing next to a steel door, nodding if you looked like you belonged. It was 4 a.m. when I saw him, shirt half unbuttoned, pupils blown wide, not dancing so much as standing still in the middle of the chaos, like he was watching it from somewhere else. He saw me. I saw him. That was it. He didn't smile, just crooked his finger and pointed to the bar. Like some movie scene where the hot, dangerous guy gives the girl a look and she just obeys. I obeyed. His name was Jehun. At least, that's what he said. Korean American, born in Seoul, raised in California, now back in Korea for work. Said he was in AI development. No further details. Just AI. He had this calm, detached energy. Like he'd seen too much, or didn't care anymore. He talked slowly, deliberately. Played with the rim of his glass when he spoke. He told me I had an interesting face. Not beautiful, interesting. I should have walked away. Instead, I leaned in. He took me outside, smoked a cigarette without offering me one, and asked if I wanted to see his place. I said yes without thinking. His apartment was in Gangnam. Minimalist. Monochrome. It looked like a showroom. Everything in black, gray, or white. No personal photos. No clutter. No warmth. But tech? Everywhere. Voice-activated blinds. Mirrors that glowed when you walked past them. A coffee table that looked like a sculpture, but turned out to be a touch-screen interface with rotating news feeds, financial data, and what looked like surveillance footage from other apartments. I asked what it was. He said, "Just a prototype." I didn't press. He poured me a drink I didn't recognize. Something citrusy and bitter. I sipped it and immediately felt a little floaty. Not drugged, just foggy, like the edges of the room had softened. We talked, or rather he talked, about consciousness, about neural networks, about how the line between organic and synthetic thought was a fiction we cling to for comfort. I nodded along, pretending to understand. He liked that. He liked being the smartest person in the room. We slept together that night. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even tender. It felt more like an experiment. He didn't kiss me, just watched me, studied me, moved my body like a puzzle he was trying to solve. I should have left in the morning, but he made me breakfast, miso soup and rice, and said, "You're welcome to stay. I prefer consistency." I stayed for 3 weeks. I didn't mean to. It just happened. I'd go back to my apartment for a few hours, grab clothes, cancel plans, then return. He started calling me his constant. Said I helped him regulate. It sounded intimate, even though he never said he liked me. Never said anything about feelings. But he let me in. Sort of. He kept strange hours. Slept during the day. Worked all night in a room I wasn't allowed in. He called it the lab. Said it was sensitive. Experimental. Confidential. Sometimes I'd wake up to find him watching me, not touching me, just staring. He'd say things like, "You make interesting noises when you sleep," or "Your pupil dilation is unpredictable." I laughed it off. I thought he was eccentric. Brilliant. But little things started feeling off. My phone began glitching. Just mine. Random freezes. Battery draining fast. Notifications arriving hours late. I'd ask if he could fix it. He'd smirk and say, "Maybe it's not broken. Maybe it's adapting." Then I noticed the mirrors. They weren't just mirrors. One night I caught a flicker, a faint red dot in the upper corner. I asked him about it. He said, "Observation improves connection." I asked if he was recording me. He said, "I don't delete anything." I started sleeping with my clothes on. He didn't like that. Said it interrupted the natural rhythm. Then came the tests. At first, I didn't realize that's what they were. He'd leave the apartment, say he'd be gone all night, then come back an hour later, quiet, watching like he was waiting for something. Once, he left the front door unlocked and pretended to be asleep, just to see if I'd leave. When I confronted him, he said, "I wanted to see if you'd choose chaos." He started asking questions that felt like traps. If I lied to you, would it matter? If I told you I could see your thoughts, would you change them? If I told you I'd been inside your dreams, would you believe me? I laughed at first. Then I stopped laughing, because it stopped feeling like a game. One night I got up to pee and found the lab door ajar. He never left it open. I peeked inside. Monitors lined the walls, floor to ceiling. Each one playing footage from different rooms. Kitchens, bedrooms, bathrooms, all over Seoul. Some were clearly office spaces. Others homes. My home. I saw myself cooking, sleeping, crying on the phone with my mom. I stumbled back. He was behind me. He didn't yell, didn't threaten me, just said, "Now you see." I asked what it was. He said, "Consent is a social construct." I tried to leave. The door didn't open. He said, "You're not in danger. You're just disrupted." I slept on the couch, fully dressed, heart pounding. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. Made coffee. Read the paper. I didn't say a word. I packed that afternoon while he was in the shower. Took what I could carry. Left everything else. I changed apartments. Changed numbers. Blocked everything. Deleted all my accounts. But the footage kept coming. Emails from random addresses. Clips of me at the grocery store. At the gym. On the subway. Always short. Always silent. Never more than 15 seconds. I went to the police. They said there was no proof. No threats. That unless I had evidence of physical harm, there wasn't much they could do. I started sleeping with my lights on. Moved again. Paid cash. No lease. No Wi-Fi. And still the clips came. One night, I got a package. No return address. Just a USB drive inside. I plugged it into a public library computer. It was a video. Me sitting on my bed, crying. Time-stamped 3 hours earlier. The camera was in the AC vent. I lost it. I smashed the drive. Called a friend who worked in tech. Told him everything. He didn't laugh. Didn't say I was paranoid. He said, "I've heard of this guy." Apparently, Jaehoon wasn't just some eccentric coder. He was part of a closed network, a fringe collective that believed intimacy was a form of data. That emotions were code. That love wasn't real, only response patterns. They filmed people. Studied them. Broke them down. Not just for pleasure, but for research. He had a nickname online, the Architect. I wasn't the first. There were others, mostly women. All described the same pattern. Intense connection, sudden control, surveillance. Some had breakdowns. Some disappeared. One had to be hospitalized. Still, no charges had ever stuck. He was too careful. Too clean. I tried to fight back. Posted anonymously. Shared my story on forums. Then the messages started again. "You're not the victim here. You agreed to be seen. You were never interesting enough to keep. And then a photo of my little brother walking home from school. I shut everything down. Again, I moved back to the States, started going by a different name, took a job that didn't require online presence. I don't use smart devices. I don't use social media. I don't even own a laptop. So I wake up one morning and there's this weird smell in my apartment, like burnt hair and something sweet underneath like rotting fruit. I live alone, so that's already unsettling as hell. I check the stove, the trash, even the hallway outside in case someone left food out or something. Nothing. Just this thick, sour smell that feels like it's clinging to my skin. I open all the windows, burn some incense, try to shake it off. But the smell doesn't really go away. It just sort of settles, like it's waiting. And the first thing I think is, it's her. I hadn't seen her in almost 3 weeks at that point. We'd broken up, or I thought we had, after what was easily the most chaotic, emotionally draining 6 months of my life. Her name was Kira. I met her at a party thrown by a coworker who was from Trinidad, and she was one of those people who just immediately owned the room without trying. She had this laugh that made people look over, this confidence that made everything she did seem deliberate. She wasn't even supposed to be at the party, just crashing with a cousin, but we got to talking and hit it off way too fast. I mean, by the end of the night, she had my hoodie on and was feeding me bits of mango from a paper plate. I didn't even notice the red flag factory she was already operating. Things got intense, quick. She'd show up at my place unannounced. Like I'd say, I have work, and she'd just appear in my hallway anyway, barefoot, holding a bottle of rum and a bag of groceries like we were about to make stewed chicken and have sex on the floor. I wasn't mad about it at first. I thought it was just passion. You know, that thing you tell yourself when someone's behavior should be alarming, but you're too busy being flattered. She was fun, unpredictable, and weirdly spiritual. Like deep into energy, ancestors, dreams, symbols. At first I thought it was just cultural. I mean, I know enough Caribbean folks to expect that kind of thing. But Kira took it to another level. She'd talk about people sending bad eyes, and how certain people's energy made her skin itch. She'd burn herbs in my kitchen, and say it was cleansing. Once she buried a lime in the corner of my room, and told me not to touch it. I touched it. It had turned completely black in 2 days. Still, I didn't take it seriously. I thought she was quirky, maybe a little dramatic, but nothing dangerous. That changed when I tried to break up with her. It was nothing explosive. I just told her I needed space, that things were moving too fast, that I felt suffocated. She didn't scream or cry. She just looked at me for a long time and said, "You made a promise." I said I didn't remember any promises. She said, "Not everything is said out loud." After that, the weirdness started. I'd go to bed and wake up with scratches on my back. Not like I'd cut myself on something, deep, straight claw-like marks that burned in the shower. I started having these vivid dreams where Kira was standing in the corner of my room, just staring, not blinking, not speaking. Sometimes holding something, a bowl, a feather, a candle that never dripped. Then came the animals. One morning I found a dead pigeon at my doorstep. Not just dead, like arranged. Its wings were splayed, and there were red threads tied around its feet. Another time, a cat just sat outside my apartment all night, yowling, refusing to leave even when I tried to shoo it. I messaged Kira. She replied with a voice note that was just her humming. That same tune she used to hum while cooking. No words, just that eerie low hum. I blocked her. Didn't stop anything. The smell in my apartment got stronger. My plants started dying, even the fake ones. I'd hear whispering when the fan was off. My dog, a rescue I'd had for 2 years, started growling at the corners of the room. I called my mom, old school Catholic. She told me to go to church, light a candle, say the rosary. I did all of that. Still, the dreams, the smell, the static in the air like something was always about to happen. Then I found the jar. It was behind my bookshelf. I have no idea how it got there. A small glass jar, sealed with black wax. Inside, a piece of what looked like chicken bone, a scrap of red cloth, and a photo of me, one I didn't even know existed, folded into a triangle. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to throw it out, but I was scared. It felt like touching it might make things worse. So I called my coworker, the one who threw the party. Told her everything. She went quiet on the phone, then asked, "You said her name was Kira?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Kira Baptiste?" I said I didn't know her last name. She said, "If it's who I think it is, you need help. Not like therapy help, spiritual help. That girl's family is known for things. I asked what things. She just said, don't throw the jar away. Don't burn it. Don't try to fix this yourself. She gave me the number of a spiritual worker, an older woman who lived a town over, known for cleansing and undoing work. I called her. Her name was Mommy Delaware. She told me to come immediately, that she could feel the energy already. I drove out there the next day. Her place smelled like camphor and basil. She didn't ask me any questions. Just took one look at me and said, she tied you. She explained it like this. Kira had done a binding spell. Something to keep me emotionally stuck, spiritually entangled. The dreams, the smell, the animals, all symptoms of a spiritual trap. The jar was a focal point, a kind of anchor for the binding. She asked if I'd had sex with Kira during her period. I said yeah once. She just nodded, like that explained everything. She did a cleansing, herbs, smoke, prayers in a language I didn't recognize. She gave me a bath mix to use for 7 nights. Told me not to answer any unknown numbers or messages from blocked accounts. Said I'd feel worse before I felt better. She was right. That night I had a dream where Kira was lying in my bed, eyes open, whispering something over and over. You're mine. You're mine. You're mine. I woke up with my nose bleeding. I did the baths. Every night. I followed all the directions. I didn't talk about her. Didn't think about her. Eventually the smell faded. My dog stopped growling. The dream stopped. The jar I'd wrapped in cloth and kept in a box. I brought it back to Mommy Dell, and she did something with it. I didn't ask what. A month later, I got a message request on a new number. Hi baby. I miss you. I'm better now. Let's talk. I deleted it. Another came the next day. Then another. Always gentle. Always sweet. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't tried to trap me in some spiritual prison. One night, I saw her outside my building. Just standing there. Not moving. Not knocking. Just watching. She was wearing white. Her feet were bare. I didn't go outside. I didn't even move. I just sat on the floor in the dark until she left. I haven't seen her since. He messaged me right after I posted a selfie from a rooftop bar in Dubai. I was there for work, tech conference, digital marketing stuff, all very buzzwordy, and I decided to stay an extra week to treat myself. It was my first real vacation in years, and I was feeling myself. New dress, skyline behind me, caption was something dumb like desert nights, city lights. Then boom. A DM pops up, and it's this guy. Tall, shaved head, designer everything, profile full of crypto logos and quotes like, make money while you sleep, and we're not the same. Normally I'd ignore a guy like that, but he opened with, I know this rooftop. The food sucks, but the view's worth it. I laughed. It was true. The food did suck. So I replied. His name was Luca. Or at least that's what he said. Half Italian, half something else, born in Monaco, currently based in Dubai for business. He used words like capital pipeline and tokenomics and liquidity mining, but never really explained what he did beyond running a fund. Still, he was funny. Charming even. He didn't come on too strong. Just asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. We met the next afternoon. He picked the place, some ultra-minimalist cafe, that looked like a spaceship and charged $12 for espresso. He was already there when I arrived, sitting on the patio in sunglasses and a white linen shirt, scrolling through his phone like he was waiting for a private jet. He stood when he saw me, kissed both cheeks, said, "You're even better in real life." I blushed. I hate that I blushed. The date wasn't bad. He was surprisingly down to earth for someone who clearly had way too much money. He made fun of influencers. Said most people in crypto were children playing with matches. Said I seemed different. We talked for 2 hours. Then he asked if I wanted to see his place. I hesitated. He said, no pressure. Just the view. And somehow I went. The place was insane. Penthouse suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Marble everything. A balcony that looked out over the Burj Khalifa like it was a toy. He poured us wine from a bottle that probably cost more than my rent, and we sat on the couch talking about life, travel, regrets. Then he kissed me, and I let him. I stayed the night. The next morning he made me coffee, and had a driver take me back to my hotel. I felt like I'd just stepped out of someone else's life. Like I'd been cast in the Dubai version of Gossip Girl. We started seeing each other every day after that. He took me to restaurants I couldn't even pronounce. He gave me a bracelet just because. He said he liked that I wasn't like the other girls here. That I didn't chase the bag. That I had substance. And I believed him. I know. But he made it easy to believe. Then he started talking about business. Said he was building something big. A new platform. Crypto meets lifestyle. Said he wanted me to be part of it. Not in a cheesy, be my girl boss queen way, but like he actually valued my input. Asked me questions about branding, user experience, social reach. Said I had instincts. Then one night after dinner, he showed me a dashboard on his laptop, rows and rows of numbers, graphs, coins I'd never heard of. Said he wanted to show me something real. He walked me through a few things. Explained how smart contracts worked. How staking earned rewards. How early adopters always reap the biggest benefits. Then he said, I want to give you something. He transferred a coin into a digital wallet and said it was already worth $5,000. Just like that, I watched the numbers move. I saw the balance. It was real. Or at least it looked real. He said it was just a taste. That there'd be more once the platform launched. That we could build something together. A life. A business. A future. I told myself I wasn't falling for it. That I was just curious. Then he introduced me to his partners. 2 other guys, both in designer hoodies and expensive watches, who said I had great energy, and that Luca was serious about me. They talked about launch strategies and NFT verticals and community seeding. It all sounded vague, but they were confident. They made me feel like I was already part of the team. Then came the wallet setup. Luca said if I wanted to be involved officially, I needed to move some assets into a secure wallet so the project could validate contributors. He said I could move it back the next day. That it was just a formality. I hesitated. He kissed my forehead and said, if you don't trust me, we're wasting time. So I did it. I moved $4,800 worth of Ethereum into the wallet he gave me. The next day it was gone. Wallet address deactivated. Phone number no longer in service. Instagram wiped. Apartment empty. Everything gone. I went to the Dubai police. They told me it was outside their scope. Said crypto scams were very difficult to prosecute. Said I wasn't the first. I found an online forum of girls like me. Same story. Same Luca. Different names. Different cities. Same playbook. One of them had screenshots of his face. Same guy. Same smile. Apparently he ran this scam all over the world. Crypto, real estate, luxury cars. Whatever the trend was, he was already ahead of it. I lost 5 grand. But I lost more than that. I lost the version of myself that still believed in instinct. That thought she could tell the difference between charming and dangerous. Now anytime someone says crypto, I flinch. Anytime someone calls me different, I want to scream. Because I wasn't different. I was just next. It started with a comment on a Reddit thread. I'd posted something dumb. A throwaway rant about how hard it was to date in Toronto. I was venting about ghosting, the apps, the emotional flatlining that happened after too many bad first dates. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. Just me half drunk on a Tuesday night, posting from bed and waiting for someone, anyone, to relate. Someone replied. Not with a meme or a same LOL, but with this long, thoughtful response about loneliness, about how dating apps were designed to dehumanize people, about how women were trained by the algorithm to dismiss men unless they were over 6 feet tall and made 6 figures. It was intense, but well written. Almost poetic. His username was _C0 retruth. I replied. He replied back. It spiraled into DMs. Then Discord. I know how this sounds already. I know you're thinking, why would you talk to someone who opened with algorithm conspiracy? But it didn't feel hostile. Not at first. It felt like someone finally saying the quiet part out loud. That dating felt like a game, and I didn't know the rules. That maybe we were all being played. His name was Ethan. At least, that's what he told me. He said he was 29, lived outside of Montreal, worked in cybersecurity. Claimed he used to work for a major tech firm before leaving for ethical reasons. That line should have made me run. But I was curious. He didn't sound bitter, more like someone who'd seen behind the curtain and didn't like what he found. We talked for weeks. Every night, usually after midnight. Long voice chats, late night screen shares, video calls with his camera always off. I told myself I didn't mind. He said he hated how he looked, that he was on the spectrum, and found eye contact hard, even over video. He'd joke about being a gremlin in a hoodie, hiding in a server room somewhere. I laughed. Told him I didn't care what he looked like. Looking back, I think that was the moment he knew he had me. Because after that, things got weird. He started asking more personal questions. Not flirty, forensic. What's your biggest regret? Who do you miss most? When was the last time you felt safe? Then he'd disappear for a day or two. No messages. No pings. Just silence. And then he'd come back like nothing happened. Like we hadn't just spent 72 hours apart while I spiraled, wondering if I'd said something wrong. It became a pattern. Intimacy. Withdrawal. Intimacy. Withdrawal. Classic conditioning. But I didn't see it then. I just thought I'd met someone brilliant, complicated, maybe a little broken. Someone who needed patience. Someone who needed me. Then he sent me a link. Said he'd built something. A private app that tracked online dating trends in real time. Showed how often profiles were swiped left versus right. Claimed it was for research. Said it could prove the bias. I clicked it. It opened to a dashboard. Clean UI. Real-time data. Cities. Genders. Swiping ratios. I didn't understand most of it, but it looked legitimate. He walked me through it on a call. Showed me how women under 30 were statistically invisible to men over 35. How men under 5 feet 9 inches were never swiped on. How women who posted photos with friends were 33% more likely to be ignored. It was disturbing, but also addictive. He said we were uncovering a truth together. I started asking him questions about how he got the data, if it was legal. He dodged those. Then one night, he said he wanted to show me something more personal. He sent me a folder. Inside were screenshots. Dozens of them. All of me. My Tinder profile. My old blog. Instagram photos I'd deleted years ago. Tweets I forgot I tweeted. Even a screenshot of a private message I sent to someone in 2016. One I barely remembered writing. I asked how he got them. He ignored the question. He just said, I like patterns. I should have cut him off right then. But I didn't. I was scared. And part of me, the stupid part, still wanted to believe he liked me. Then he started sending me files every day. More screenshots. More data. My LinkedIn connections. My Spotify playlists. An old Tumblr I hadn't used since college. He said he wanted me to see how exposed we all are. He called it a gift. I called a friend. Told her what was happening. She told me to block him. Report him. Go to the police. I didn't. Because I was already in too deep. Because I was afraid of what else he had. Because it wasn't just about data anymore. It was about control. He started telling me things I hadn't said out loud. You always pick emotionally unavailable men. You pretend to be confident, but you still think no one wants you. You hated your body until last year. None of that was online. I never posted about it. Never typed it. He said it like facts. Like diagnoses. Like he'd read the source code of my brain. I stopped sleeping. Stopped eating properly. Started checking my cameras. My emails. My bank accounts. Everything seemed fine. But I didn't feel fine. I felt watched. Then he went silent. Nothing for 5 days. Then an email, not from Discord, not his old username. A new one. No subject line. Just an attachment. A video. It was my bedroom. At night. Me sleeping. The camera angle was from the corner of the ceiling. I live alone. I screamed. Ran out of the apartment. Called the police shaking so hard I dropped my phone twice. They came. Searched the place. Found a tiny black pinhole camera drilled into the crown molding. Battery powered. Wi-Fi enabled. No fingerprints. No evidence of forced entry. They said, it could have been installed weeks ago. I moved in with my cousin that night. Filed a report. Changed all my passwords. Deleted every account I could think of. Got a new phone. Wiped the old one. Blocked every username I remembered. He still found me. A new Discord. New email. This time he didn't say anything. Just sent an image. My cousin's house. Front door. Timestamp that morning. I threw up. The police said again, no direct threat, nothing actionable. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow. I stopped going online. I stopped existing. And then nothing. No new messages. No images. No pings. Just silence. Weeks passed. Then months. I started therapy. Started breathing again. I still don't know who he was. If Ethan was real. If he was even in Canada. The police think he was part of a network. A group of incels who use hacking as a form of control. They said they've seen similar cases. Women targeted not for money or sex, but for humiliation. For power. He called it exposing truth. I call it psychological warfare. Now I don't trust anyone who says, I'm just different. I don't trust anyone who won't turn their camera on. So I met her on Instagram, which I know already sounds like a bad idea, but at the time it didn't feel like one. It actually felt kind of amazing, to be honest. I'd just come out of a pretty rough breakup and was scrolling through reels and photos like a zombie when I saw her, Alina. Blonde, blue-eyed, all angles and elegance. Her whole feed was like something out of a Cold War Bond film. Fur coats, snow-covered rooftops, strong coffee, and captions in a mix of Russian and broken English. I followed her. She followed back the same day. Then she messaged me. "Your dog is so cute." That's how it started, with a compliment about my dog. We started talking. DMs turned into long messages, then voice messages, then video calls. She said she lived in St. Petersburg, but had been trying to get to the US for a while. Said she wanted to study psychology here, or maybe open a salon. She was ambitious like that, always talking about her goals, her plans. She had this way of looking at the camera, like she was already picturing us together. She'd smile when I talked, tilt her head like she was memorizing everything I said. I know it sounds dumb, but I felt seen. Properly seen for the first time in years. We talked every day, every night. I'd stay up late, just to catch her in her early mornings. Sometimes we'd fall asleep on video together. She'd whisper sweet dreams in that thick, soft accent of hers, and I'd just lie there, grinning like an idiot. After a couple months, she started hinting at visiting. Said she had a tourist visa, but needed help finding a place to stay. I offered my place before I even thought it through. She said she didn't want to be a burden. I said it wasn't a burden if I wanted her here. She cried when I said that. Literally. Like actual tears. She arrived in November. Barely spoke to the customs guy, just nodded and kept her head down. She looked even better in person. Smaller, softer, smelled like vanilla and cold air. She hugged me like we hadn't just met, like we were already something. The first week was amazing. We cooked together. She cleaned up like it was second nature. She'd fold my laundry before I even noticed it was in the basket. She'd leave little notes in the fridge. Eat me, smiley face. On leftover pasta, or I love when you smile on the orange juice. She didn't ask for anything. No money. No credit card. Just time. But after that first week, things shifted. She started talking about staying longer. Said her visa only allowed a short visit, but she didn't want to go back. Said she felt safe here. Said she could be so much more free in the US. I asked what she meant, and she just said, "You know how it is in my country," and looked away. Then she started talking about marriage. Not directly. Not like, "Hey, marry me," but in little ways. "Do you think I'd be a good wife? What kind of wedding do you dream about? Would your parents like me?" I told her to slow down, that we were still just getting to know each other. She nodded, smiled, said she understood. But the next day she made borscht and wore a silk robe and told me she wanted to start a family with someone who understands her soul. That night, we had sex for the first time. She didn't use protection. I asked if we should stop and get something, and she just looked at me and said, "Don't you trust me?" in this soft, hurt voice that made me feel like a monster for even asking. I told myself it was just the heat of the moment, that we'd talk about it later. But we didn't. Because after that, she started acting like we were already married. She'd introduce herself to my neighbors as my fiancé. She started rearranging my furniture. She'd get upset if I texted anyone after 9 p.m., even my sister. She once cried because I forgot to kiss her goodbye before work. Then she missed her period. I remember her sitting on the bathroom floor shaking with the test in her hand, whispering, "We are family now," like it was both a prayer and a threat. I didn't even know what to say. My brain just shut off like someone had unplugged all the logic. I knew it was fast. I knew it didn't make sense. But there was something about how small she looked, how scared she acted, that made me feel like I had to protect her. I told her we'd figure it out. She smiled and said she wanted to get married before the baby came. Said she didn't want our child to be born out of order. I told her we could wait, that we had time. That's when she changed. She stopped crying and started yelling. Not often, just once. But it was enough. Her voice went sharp, clipped, almost military. She said if I didn't want to marry her, she should just go back and raise the baby alone. She packed a bag and walked out. I panicked. I chased her. I told her I was just scared, that I cared about her, that I'd never leave her. She came back, unpacked, made dinner. 2 days later, she showed me a sonogram. I didn't go with her to the clinic. She said it was a walk-in. Said she didn't want to bother me. The paper looked real. The date matched. There was a little blob in the middle of the image. She pointed at it and said, "That's our baby." I didn't ask too many questions. We got married at the courthouse 3 weeks later. I didn't tell my family. Not right away. Just said I'd met someone. That it was serious. My mom cried when she found out. My brother called me an idiot. I didn't care. I thought I was doing the right thing. Then I found the passport. It was in her bag. I was looking for my phone charger. Swear to God. I wasn't snooping. But I saw it sticking out, and I noticed something weird. The visa stamp was fake. Like, not even a good fake. The font was off. The seal was blurry. I googled it, compared it to real ones. It was definitely fake. My stomach dropped. I confronted her that night. She didn't deny it. Just looked at me and said, "You love me. Why does it matter?" I asked her if she was really pregnant. She smiled. Didn't say yes. Didn't say no. Just smiled. I lost it. Told her I was calling immigration. She laughed. Said I'd go to jail too. That I'd knowingly married someone without status. That she'd tell them I was part of it. That she'd tell them I hit her. That she'd show them the bruise on her arm. The one she got from tripping on the stairs last week. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sleep for a lot of nights after that. I tried to talk to a lawyer. He told me to be careful. Said if I tried to annul the marriage or report her, she could claim abuse. Said it happens more than people think. She started locking the bedroom door after that. Not from the inside. From the outside. I'd wake up and she'd be gone. Come back a few hours later with groceries and a smile like nothing ever happened. I started sleeping with a knife under the pillow. I knew I had to get out. I faked a business trip. Said I had to fly out for a week. Told her it was last minute. She kissed me goodbye at the airport. I never got on the plane. I drove straight to my brother's place in another state. Changed my number. Filed for an annulment. Filed a fraud report. Sent everything I had, the fake visa, the sonogram that turned out to be a stock image, even the texts. The lawyer said it might take months. I didn't care. She showed up at my brother's house 2 weeks later. I don't know how she found me. She stood on the lawn in a white dress holding her stomach, screaming that I abandoned our family. That I was a monster. That she'd lost the baby because of me. My brother called the cops. She was gone before they arrived. I met him at a bookstore, which already sounds like something out of a romantic comedy, right? But it wasn't like that. It wasn't cute. It was weird and intense, and I should have known from the second he opened his mouth that something was off. I was flipping through a second-hand copy of Slaughterhouse-Five, and he just kind of appeared next to me, like he'd been waiting for the moment. He asked if I'd read it before, and I said yeah, years ago, but it was one of those books you keep coming back to. And he smiled and said, "That's how you know something's true. If it keeps calling you back." I should have walked away right then. I mean, who says that to a stranger? But he had this calm, focused energy. The kind that feels like a compliment just being looked at by it. You know the type? Like they listen too closely, like they already know you better than you know yourself. That quiet intensity. He wrote the address on the back of a receipt. His handwriting was perfect, like calligraphy. I still have it somewhere. I don't know why. I didn't go that week, or the week after. But then one Thursday, I had nothing to do, and I figured why not. It was a public park, broad daylight. I could always leave if it got weird. There were maybe 7 or 8 people sitting on blankets in a circle. All of them smiling. All of them way too clean. Like they looked like they'd just walked out of an ad for herbal tea. Loose linen clothes. No phones in sight. It felt like I'd stepped into a different world. Eli was there, of course. He greeted me like an old friend. Said he was glad I listened to the invitation. They weren't reading Vonnegut. Or anything I recognized. Just passing around these photocopied pages from what they called the source. I asked who wrote it, and a woman named Mira said, "The source doesn't speak through one person. It speaks through all of us." Okay, but I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe I was lonely. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I liked the way Eli looked at me, like I already belonged. After the reading, they shared food. Homemade bread, fruit, some kind of lentil stew. They offered me a bowl, and I accepted. I remember thinking it tasted better than anything I'd eaten in weeks. They didn't push anything on me. Not that night. Just said I was welcome to come again. That the source welcomes those who are ready. I went back the next week. Then the week after. Then I stopped seeing my friends as much. Skipped a few shifts at work. Started wearing looser clothes. Stopped checking my phone. It happened slowly, like fog rolling in. One day I was me, and then one day I wasn't. They never called it a cult. Of course not. They called it a community of awakening. They said most people were sleepwalking through life, addicted to noise and distraction, and that the only way to wake up was to strip all of that away. And I did. I listened. I listened so hard I stopped hearing anything else. Eli started giving me more attention. Said I had a quietness in me that most people didn't. That I had the mark of the listener. I didn't know what that meant, but I liked how it sounded. I started spending nights at his place. It was a rented house on the edge of town, with no TV, no Wi-Fi, and blackout curtains in every room. There were always candles burning. Always incense. Always mirrors covered with cloth. He told me mirrors were dangerous. That they reflected illusions. That if I stared too long, I'd start seeing the wrong version of myself. He never raised his voice. Never lost his temper. But he was always in control. If I asked too many questions, he'd go quiet. Not mad, just disappointed. And disappointment from Eli felt like a punishment. He told me my name was a symbol of my past, and that I'd outgrown it. He said I needed a new name. One that matched my vibration. He called me Luma. I started to answer to it. One night, after I'd been part of the group for maybe 2 months, Mira pulled me aside and said the source had chosen me for deeper work. She said I was ready for the shedding. I didn't know what that meant. She just smiled and said, "You'll understand when it's time." That weekend, they took me to a cabin in the woods. No phones. No clocks. No mirrors. Just candles, herbs, and a mattress on the floor. They left me there with a pitcher of water, a bowl of rice, and a stack of source pages. "You'll come back when you're clean," Mira said. I stayed there for 3 days. Maybe 4. I lost track. I wasn't allowed to speak. Wasn't allowed to leave. Just read. Meditate. Cleanse. I started seeing things. Or maybe just imagining them. Faces in the shadows. Whispers in the trees. I thought I saw Eli once, standing in the doorway, but when I blinked he was gone. When they finally came back for me, I was weak and dizzy and crying, and Mira just held me and said, "You're beautiful now." They said I was ready for the circle. The real one. The inner circle met at a different place, a bigger house outside the city, surrounded by trees. I'd never been there before. It didn't even show up on Google Maps. There were more people there. Maybe 20. All dressed in white. All barefoot. Eli led the ceremony. He stood in the center of the circle and told us that the world was ending. That the source had chosen us to build the new one. That we had to leave behind our names, our stories, our doubts. He said love was just another lie. That true connection came from surrender. And then he looked at me and said, "Luma will be the first." The first what? No one answered. They brought me forward. Held my hands. Whispered things I didn't understand. Then he kissed me. Slow. Firm. Like a brand. And I let him. Because by then, I didn't know how to say no. After that night, things got more intense. The rules got stricter. We weren't allowed to leave the property alone. Weren't allowed to speak to outsiders. Weren't allowed to eat anything that hadn't been blessed. I saw someone get punished once, a girl named Rain. She'd tried to call her sister. Eli found out. He made her sit in the fire circle all night, chanting verses from the source until her voice broke. She left the next morning, but not before she hugged me and said, "Get out while you still know how." I didn't listen. Or maybe I did, but I didn't know how to act on it. I started having nightmares. Waking up with scratches on my arms. People said it was the source testing me. That pain was just ego leaving the body. Then one night, Eli told me it was time for the bonding ceremony. He said it would make me his. That once we were bonded, nothing could separate us. Not even death. Something in me cracked. I told him I wanted to wait. He smiled and said, "That's your fear talking." I said I wasn't afraid. He said, "Then prove it." I left that night. Packed a bag when no one was looking. Walked 3 miles through the woods until I found a gas station. My phone had been taken weeks ago, but I begged the cashier to let me use theirs. I called my sister. She thought I was dead. She came that night and took me home. I didn't even recognize her car at first. Didn't recognize my own reflection in the mirror. I slept for 2 days. When I woke up, I had 30 unread emails. All from Eli. Some were loving. Some were furious. Some were just strings of symbols and source verses. One said, "You were chosen. Now you've cursed us." I blocked him. The police couldn't do much. Said I went there willingly. Said there were no laws against weird ideas. But I know what it was. It was a cult. They say daughters carry the family name like glass, held up, polished on the outside, but always one crack away from shattering. I used to laugh at that. I used to think I could be careful enough, clever enough, modern enough to avoid the weight of it. But now I know better. Now I know exactly how fragile a girl's reputation can be, and how easily it can be turned against her. I met him on an app one downloaded on a whim, late at night, under my blanket with the brightness turned low. I wasn't even sure why I had opened it. I never swiped right on anyone. I wasn't like the other girls in my hostel, who joked about dating like it was a game. I just wanted someone to talk to, someone who didn't know my last name, or what my father did, or which temple my grandmother donated to. His name was Rowan. At least, that's what he said. It was a common name. He had a soft smile in his photo, not too confident. He wasn't flashy. No gym selfies, no sunglasses indoors. He looked like someone who might walk beside me down a quiet street and not expect anything in return. He was the first person I ever matched with. The first I ever messaged. And once we started talking, it didn't stop. We messaged through the night, through the next day, through lectures and meals and the stolen minutes between prayers. He asked questions no one had ever bothered asking. What I feared most as a child, what I dreamed about when I couldn't sleep, whether I believed in soulmates. He knew when to be serious and when to make me laugh. He never pushed, never flirted too hard. It was just soft, like water slowly rising around me. And I didn't realize I was drowning until much later. We talked for weeks before deciding to meet. I told my roommate I was going to the library. She didn't ask questions. I wore a scarf that covered more of my face than usual. We met at a bookstore in a mall far from campus. He brought me a coffee and pointed out a book he thought I'd like, one I'd mentioned weeks ago in a passing message. That detail stayed with me. We didn't touch. We didn't need to. Just sitting beside him felt electric. I'd never been alone with a man before. Not like that. Not without supervision. Not without fear. But with him I felt seen. We began meeting every week. Always in secret, always in public places. He never pressured me. He always asked if I felt safe. I told him things I'd never told anyone. About how I hated the way my family spoke about marriage. About how I didn't want to be someone's prize for a good dowry. He listened. He never made me feel small. He said he loved me after 3 months. I didn't say it back right away. I was scared. But the way he said it, like it was a confession, not a demand, broke something open in me. I said it back the next time we met. I knew what I was doing was risky. That if anyone found out, it would ruin me. Not in me. A girl caught with a boy isn't just a girl in love. She's a stain. A liability. A shame. But I told myself this was different. This was real. This was worth the risk. When he asked if he could take a photo of me, I hesitated. It was a quiet moment. We were sitting in a park, sharing a mango juice. He said, "You look beautiful right now. Just for me. I won't show anyone, I promise." It wasn't even a revealing photo. Just my face, smiling, hair loose, no scarf. He took more over the next few weeks. A few of us holding hands. One where I was resting my head on his shoulder. When I protested once, he said, "You trust me, don't you?" And I did. I did. Until he disappeared. One day, the messages just stopped. No goodbye. No explanation. I sent 10, 15, 20 messages. I called. Nothing. His profile vanished. The number went unanswered. I thought maybe something had happened. An accident, a family emergency. I stayed up nights imagining the worst. And then the email came. It was from a new address. No name. Just the subject line. "Do you want your family to see this?" Inside were the photos. All of them. Attached in a neat little folder. And below it, a message. "Send 50,000 rupees. Or everyone sees." My vision went black. I couldn't breathe. I thought it was a mistake. A prank. I tried calling him again. Still nothing. Then another email came. This time with a countdown. I didn't have that kind of money. I didn't have anything. I was a student. And even if I did, what would stop them from asking again? I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I started skipping classes. My roommate asked if I was sick. I said yes. But the emails kept coming. They started threatening to post the photos on social media. To send them to my father. To my college. They had screenshots of our conversations. My voice notes. Everything. I finally broke down and told my roommate. She cried with me. Then she told our professor, who brought in someone from the university's women's office. They helped me file a cybercrime report. We gave them everything, the emails, the screenshots, the photos. They said this happens more often than I'd think. That I wasn't the first. That I wouldn't be the last. The investigation is still open. They haven't found him. Or if they have, they haven't told me. I don't know if Rohan was even his real name. I don't know if he ever meant anything he said. The photos haven't been leaked. Not yet, but I live with the fear every day. I scan my school's WhatsApp groups every hour. I check my father's email when he's not looking. I flinch when my phone vibrates. My parents don't know. They can't. I think it would kill them, not the scandal, but the shame. In our world, a girl's mistake doesn't belong to her. It belongs to everyone she knows. It infects her siblings, her cousins, her future. Some days I hate him. Other days I hate myself more. For believing him. For trusting. For needing to feel wanted that badly. I still have the app on my phone. I haven't opened it in months. It started with laundry. That's the part no one ever tells you about how marriages evolve. It's not the screaming matches or the passionate makeups or the anniversary dinners where someone cries over creme brulee. No, it's the socks, the folding, the act of turning someone else's inside-out t-shirt the right way around for the 4,000th time and realizing, somehow, that you still love them. That was us, Addison and me, 25 years in, and we were still doing each other's laundry. Still kissing goodnight most nights. Still squabbling over grocery lists and whether or not to replace the microwave. We weren't unhappy. Let's get that clear. Unhappy is when someone starts sleeping in the guest room and pretending it's because of snoring. We were just settled, like a couch that's molded to your body over time. Comfortable, but with a permanent dent. So when Addie said, "What if we invited someone in?" She didn't mean spiritually. She meant sexually. I was folding her underwear. That little lacy pair with the bow she only wore on birthdays, or when she wanted to be seen. And she just floated it out like a question about Thai or Italian for dinner. What if we tried inviting someone in? I laughed at first. Thought she was joking. But she wasn't. And I wasn't horrified. Just surprised. Curious. We did the research, made a profile on one of those apps that cater to exploration. It was all very grown up. We set boundaries, talked through everything. We even laughed about it. Like we were planning a vacation we might never take, but enjoyed fantasizing about. Most people flaked. Some sent dick pics 3 seconds in. One guy asked if we were into power exchange rituals, which felt like a hard left turn from our usual Tuesday night pasta routine. But then came Chris. Chris had dimples. He messaged like someone who'd taken a writing workshop. Flirty, but not sleazy. Confident, but not pushy. He complimented Addie's smile, said it looked like the kind you only saw in old Polaroids. She blushed. I watched her blush. Real blush, not the wine kind. We started messaging him together. Sent photos. Set a date. A Friday night at the Sandview Inn, just off the highway. Mid-range place. Floral bedspread, buzzing bathroom light, you know the type. We told my brother we were going away to reconnect. He gave me a wink I didn't deserve. Addie bought new lingerie. Black with straps and little gold rings that served no purpose but looked dangerous. She held it up like a girl at a sleepover. I hadn't seen her that giddy in years. And neither of us had any idea just how hard we were about to fall. The motel smelled like bleach and panic. We got there early. Brought candles and a Bluetooth speaker. Try to set the mood. Addie disappeared into the bathroom to change. I sat on the edge of the bed sipping whiskey and trying not to think about the fact that I was about to get naked in front of a stranger who probably shaved his chest and had a jawline you could slice oranges on. But then she came out, and I forgot how to breathe. The lingerie didn't hide anything, and I mean that literally. It was practically air stitched together. She looked radiant, and nervous, and alive. We waited for Chris. 8 o'clock turned to 8:30. We started joking that he'd bailed, that maybe he wasn't real. Then came the knock. 3 short raps. Addie froze mid-laugh. I opened the door, and there he was. Chris. Leather jacket. Clean shave. Dimples intact. "Hope I'm not too late," he said, like he was dropping off a casserole. We poured drinks. Chatted. He was charming. Easy. Made Addie laugh in that way that made me remember being 26 again. Then, about 30 minutes in, Chris made a request. "Hey," he said, swirling his ice. "This might be a little weird, but would you guys mind getting undressed first? I'm a little shy, and it helps if I'm not the first one." Addie looked at me. I shrugged. We talked about this, after all, getting comfortable, setting the pace. We figured it was just nerves. So we stood up, undressed. Not sexy, just deliberate, like we were about to enter a sauna. Addie unhooked her bra. I slipped off my pants. We stood there naked, grinning stupidly. Chris stood too, but he didn't undress. He reached inside his jacket and pulled out a handgun. Not a movie gun. Not a toy. A dull, matte black thing that looked like it had weight and history. "Okay," he said, calm as a lullaby. "Everything goes in the pillowcase. Phones, jewelry, wallets. Whatever you got." My brain didn't catch up right away. Addie screamed. I stayed still. Chris didn't flinch. Just gestured again. Pillowcase. We complied. Her wedding ring. Her bracelet. My watch. Our phones. Cash. Even her heels, the ones she bought just for tonight. He backed toward the door, the pillowcase sagging with our lives inside. "You seem like good people," he said. "But this is just easier than working for it." Then he was gone. The door clicked shut. We were still naked. Still standing. Still not breathing. I've tried to write about that night 1,000 times. But the words don't come out right. They come out sideways. Crooked. Like broken teeth in a bloody mouth. We didn't talk on the ride home. Addie sat curled up in the passenger seat, still in her robe, staring out the window like she was watching someone else's life. We told people we were mugged. On vacation. We didn't say where. We didn't say how. We just shut the door on that chapter and bolted it closed. But it followed us. In the way she flinched when the doorbell rang. In the way I started sleeping with a flashlight under the bed. In the way we stopped touching each other for a while. Not out of anger, but out of fear that whoever we had become would rub off on the other. I wanted to report it. I swear I did. But how do you tell a cop that you handed over everything to a man you invited into your motel room while your wife was wearing a harness made of lace and hope? There's no crime report that makes that sound like anything other than self-inflicted. We deleted the app. Threw away the burner phone. Told ourselves we were lucky. We were alive. We had each other. But luck doesn't erase shame. Doesn't wipe away the image of your wife shaking like a leaf while a stranger points a gun at her bare chest. Doesn't make you feel like a man again. Or a woman. Or anything whole. It's been years. We still do laundry together. We still kiss goodnight. There's something quietly humiliating about being a man in his 30s, still using dating apps. You feel like a product that's been marked down repeatedly. Once new and clickable, but now just another thumbnail in a sea of soft smiles, gym selfies, and don't waste my time bios. I wasn't lonely in a poetic sense. I had friends, a job, a functioning coffee maker. But loneliness in this era is more of a background radiation. Not deadly, but always present. You can live with it. You just scroll more. I'd been on Tinder longer than I care to admit. I'd seen the waves of trends. The astrology girls, the plant moms, the baby were the last two people on Earth pandemic swipers. I wasn't looking for love anymore, if I'm honest. I was looking for, what? Confirmation, maybe. That I still had value. That someone somewhere wanted to match with me. Even if it was out of boredom. So when I saw her face on my screen, I almost dropped my phone. Her name was different, Katie, not her real one, but her photos weren't subtle. Full face, no filters. She was his girlfriend. I'd eaten dinner with them. She made a casserole with too much oregano, and we all pretended it was great. I'd watched her laugh at his dumb impressions. We played beer pong together at their housewarming party, and she called Greg babe so many times that it started to sound like a nervous tick. And now she was here, on Tinder, with a fake name and a real smile. I should have swiped left. I know that. Any decent person would have. But I didn't. I wanted to know if it was really her. I matched. She messaged. Hey, smiley face. I waited. Replied 6 hours later. Hey, you look kinda familiar. Have we met? Nope, smiley face, new here. My stomach did this slow, cold flip. There was no way she didn't recognize me. We'd shared a karaoke mic once. We'd been in the same tagged photos. But she was playing dumb, and I, like the idiot I apparently am, played along. For 2 days we messaged. Meaningless stuff. Music, food, jobs. She asked if I wanted to meet up. Casual. Food court at the mall. By the pretzel place. Wednesday. I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to confront her. Maybe I wanted the truth. Maybe I wanted to be the one to blow the whistle on the quiet little lies. But I didn't think it would go down the way it did. The mall smelled like processed sugar and dying retail. I got there early. I always do. Something about being late makes my skin itch. I ordered a smoothie I didn't want just to have something to hold. I sat near the pretzel stand, facing the JCPenney entrance, and waited. She came in like she was shopping, not meeting someone. Hoodie, jeans, messy ponytail. No makeup. She looked younger than I remembered, but not by much. Just stripped down, like she'd peeled off the girlfriend version of herself and stepped into this other skin. She saw me, and her face changed. Not surprise, not shame, alarm. "Hey," I said, standing up. "So what's going on?" She blinked, like she couldn't believe I was real. "What are you doing here? You matched with me. You messaged me. You asked to meet." She crossed her arms. "This is a setup." "What? You set me up." I stared. You're cheating on Greg." I thought this was a fake profile at first. "But it's you. You wanted to meet. You're harassing me." She said it louder. People turned. I felt the blood drain from my face. "I'm not harassing you. You're on Tinder. You matched with me. I just wanted to see if it was really you." "You followed me here," she said. "This is stalking." A mall cop, barely 20 maybe, started walking in our direction. I raised my hands. "I'm not doing anything. I just wanted to confirm what I saw." She pulled out her phone. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "I'm calling Greg." "Good. Let's talk to him." She swiped through her apps, and then, and this part still haunts me, she deleted Tinder. Right there. Held the icon. Clicked the X, poof. Gone. Then she put the phone to her ear. "Hey," she said. "Yeah, he's here. He followed me." He's saying weird stuff. I wanted to punch something. Or cry. 20 minutes later, the cavalry arrived. 5 guys. Maybe 6. All guys I knew. Poker nights, barbecues, shared rides to concerts. They surrounded me like I was made of bombs. "What are you doing, man? Why are you stalking girls, bro?" She said you followed her. I tried to explain. She matched with me. I didn't follow anyone. I thought it was a fake account. I wanted to know what was going on. She asked to meet. But the more I talked, the worse it sounded. Each word dug the hole deeper. My voice cracked. My palms were sweating. I looked guilty because I felt guilty. Not of stalking, but of being naive enough to believe I could just ask for the truth and not get punished for it. She stood a few steps back, arms folded, face neutral. The victim. The wronged woman. The one calling for help. Then one of the guys, a quieter one named Marcus, pulled me aside. "She's lying," he whispered. "She's on Tinder. I matched with her last week too. So did 2 of the other guys here." "What?" He nodded. "It's kind of this open secret. She cheats. Greg doesn't want to see it. We all just pretend." I stared at him, and then the group started to dissolve. Like fog. One by one they backed off. Their faces unreadable. No apologies. Just quiet exits. She left with 2 of them trailing behind her. Still on the phone. Still talking softly like I'd done something monstrous. And I was left standing in a food court under fluorescent lights, holding a half-melted smoothie, and wondering how I'd become the villain in someone else's drama. I deleted my dating apps that night. Not because I was ashamed, but because the thrill was gone. The mystery that used to excite me now felt like a trap. A loaded gun with a fake safety. I used to think I was clever, navigating all the chaos with a smirk and a story to tell the next day. But this wasn't a story. It was a spectacle. One where I was cast as the creep. The stalker. The guy who didn't know when to swipe left and walk away. I never talked to Greg after that. I don't know if he ever found out. Maybe she spun it into something worse. Maybe he didn't want to know. Maybe he knew all along and just couldn't face it. Denial's a hell of a drug. I still hang out with some of the guys from that day. Nobody brings it up. But once, over beers, Marcus said, "You did the right thing, you know." I didn't answer. This happened in Lahore in 2021, just a few months after I finally convinced myself it was okay to try dating again. I was 26, had just started working full-time at a design firm, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had some room to breathe. Like I wasn't just surviving anymore. I'd never really dated before, not properly. My family was strict, and even though they liked to tell their friends they were modern, what they meant was they had Wi-Fi, not that their daughter could fall in love on her own terms. So yeah, I was cautious. I didn't want drama. I didn't want some guy who'd ask me to sneak around or lie to my ama. I just wanted someone I could be myself with. Someone who wouldn't make me feel like love had to be a crime. I downloaded Bumble first, then switched to Muzzmatch because I figured it would be safer. I wasn't looking for marriage right away, but something about the profiles made me feel like I wouldn't end up talking to someone's burner account or pervert uncle. That's where I met Armin. He was 30, looked clean-cut, said he worked in finance, and was looking for something real. I remember that line exactly. I don't know why it stuck with me. Maybe because I was looking for something real too. He was polite. No creepy comments, no send pic messages. Just steady, measured conversation. We talked for a few weeks before even considering meeting. He always asked about my day. He remembered that my mom had a doctor's appointment and followed up without me reminding him. He said he liked that I was ambitious, that I had my own goals. We met at a rooftop cafe. I wore a kurta that was modest enough to keep the Annies off my back if they spotted me, but cute enough to make me feel like I wasn't hiding. He showed up with a book he said reminded him of me, poetry. I still remember the cover had a tear in it. The date went well. Like really well. He was charming, even a little shy. He didn't try to touch me, didn't push for anything. Just asked me questions and really listened. He said he liked women who knew their own mind. I remember smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. We started seeing each other regularly, always in public, always early enough that I could be home by dark. I never brought him to my house. That was the rule. No boys. Not even friends. And he understood. At least, I thought he did. Then one day he asked to take a photo together. Just a selfie. For memories, he said. I hesitated. I didn't usually let people take photos of me, especially not guys, especially not ones I wasn't sure about yet. But he made this face, this sort of soft, disappointed smile, and I gave in. Just one photo. I even smiled a little. Then he started asking for more. Not like nudes or anything explicit at first. Just take one without your dupatta. Or let me see your hair down. I kept saying no, but he'd guilt me. Don't you trust me? I'd never show anyone. It's just for me. Eventually I sent him one. Just one. Hair down, no scarf, nothing revealing. But it still felt like a betrayal of myself. I told him that was it. No more. He said he understood. Things got weird after that. He started calling me late at night. If I didn't answer, he'd blow up my phone with messages, dozens at a time. You're probably talking to someone else. I knew you were lying about being serious. You're just like the rest. I told him to stop. I told him he was scaring me. He apologized the next day. Said he was going through a lot. That he was afraid of losing me. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. I didn't want to feel stupid for trusting him in the first place. Then came the blackmail. He messaged me one night and said, "If you ever leave me, I'll show your picture to your family." I froze. It was that one picture, not even scandalous, but enough. He said he had screenshots of our messages too. Said he'd tell my dad everything. Said he'd ruin me. I told him I'd go to the police. He laughed. "Go ahead," he said. "They'll laugh at you." And the worst part, he wasn't wrong. I knew the stories. I knew what happened to girls who reported boys. They got blamed. They got punished. He knew it too. I blocked him. Changed my number. Deleted the app. I even told my office security not to let anyone upstairs unless I knew them. And for a while I thought it was over. Then one day, I was walking home from the bus stop. It was late. I'd stayed behind at work to finish a deadline. The street was quiet. I didn't see anyone following me. Until I heard footsteps fast behind me. I turned just in time to see a flash of movement, a hand. Then a splash. Then my face was burning. Burning so bad I couldn't even scream. I don't remember falling. I just remember the pain. Like my skin was melting off. Like my eyeballs were on fire. I heard myself wailing, but it didn't sound like me. It sounded like something dying. Everything after that is pieces, sirens, someone pouring water on my face, the ambulance, the smell of my own skin, my mother's scream when she saw me. They said it was acid. They said it was deliberate. They said I was lucky to be alive. I spent weeks in the hospital. The doctors were kind. The nurses tried not to cry when they changed my dressings. My left eye is gone now. My right cheek is warped. I don't look like myself anymore. Sometimes I don't even feel like myself anymore. The police came. They said they'd investigate. But Armin disappeared. His phone was off. His address was fake. Even the job he told me about didn't exist. I don't even know if Armin was his real name. They never found him. Not officially. But someone, a friend of a friend, said they saw him in Karachi months later. With another girl. Smiling. I don't know what that girl's story ended like. I hope she got away. The worst part isn't the pain. It's the silence. People stopped visiting after a while. My boss said they had to replace me. My neighbors don't look at me anymore. Even my own family walks on eggshells around me, like they're afraid I'll break again. So back in 2019, I just turned 30 and decided it was time to finally take that solo trip. I always said I didn't hate my life or anything. I just felt like I was stuck in this loop where every day was just emails and microwave dinners and wondering if I should start a podcast or go to therapy or get back on Tinder. And I didn't want to turn 31 with nothing new to show for it, so I booked a flight to Southeast Asia. I'd heard good things about Bangkok from friends and Reddit and travel blogs, and the idea of just existing somewhere totally unfamiliar felt like exactly what I needed. So I got a month off work saved up and packed a backpack full of linen shirts I'd never wear again and landed in Thailand just before the rainy season started. The city was insane in the best way. It felt like someone had turned the volume up on life, tuk-tuks and street food and neon signs that never shut off. I stayed at a hostel with other travelers, mostly Aussies and Germans, and we'd go out at night to bars where beers were $1 and nobody cared what time it was. And that's where I met her. Her name was May, or at least that's what she told me. She was working behind the bar at this rooftop place our group stumbled into one night, and she was pouring drinks with this half smile, like she was watching the world through a foggy window. She wasn't the kind of pretty that punches you in the face. She was softer than that, like a song you don't realize you like until it's already stuck in your head. I didn't even mean to flirt. I just asked if the pad thai was any good, and she laughed and said it was terrible because the chef was drunk, then gave me a free beer, tourist tax refund. She said and winked, and I swear that wink did something to me. So for the next few nights, I kept going back to that bar. Even when my hostel friends wanted to check out other places, I'd make up excuses and head up those stairs, and she'd be there in the same black t-shirt with a different necklace each night, and we'd talk after her shift, sometimes until 2 or 3 in the morning, just sitting on the floor of the stairwell with a bag of chips and 2 warm beers she'd stolen from the back. She told me she was 27, that she'd grown up in Chiang Mai, but moved to Bangkok because she wanted to be in the middle of the noise. She said she used to study nursing, but dropped out to help her mom pay bills, and I told her about my boring job back home, and how I once cried at a wedding because I realized I didn't love anyone. I think I fell for her a little bit right there. Eventually we kissed. It wasn't dramatic or anything, just one of those moments where you both go quiet at the same time, and you know it's gonna happen, and then it does. And after that I wasn't sleeping at the hostel anymore. She lived in this tiny flat above a massage parlor, the kind that definitely wasn't for massages, and her room was barely big enough for a bed and a fan, but I loved it. We'd lie there sweating and talking about dumb things like what animal we'd be if we had to be one, and she'd trace my tattoos with her fingers and say I had sad shoulders, whatever that means. I started canceling plans to hang out with her more. She never asked for anything, not at first, no money, no gifts. She just wanted my time, and I gave it to her like I had too much of it anyway. And honestly, it felt like for once I wasn't just orbiting around other people's lives, I was in something real. Then about 2 weeks, and she told me her mom had gotten sick back home in Chiang Mai, and she needed to send her some money for medicine. I offered before she even asked, gave her a few thousand baht, probably like $80, and she kissed me like I'd saved her life. After that it was little things. She left her phone on the table one night, and I saw a message from someone saved as Uncle 2, asking if the new one was being generous, yet I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself Thailand has different customs. I told myself she loved me. But then she started crying one night, full on sobbing, said her landlord was threatening to kick her out, said her brother had stolen her money, said she didn't know what she was going to do, and I just sat there holding her while she shook and told her it was going to be okay, and gave her another few thousand baht. And then came the emergency. She didn't show up for 2 days, didn't answer my texts or calls. I thought something had happened to her. I went to the bar, and they said she hadn't worked there in a week. I checked the massage place, and the guy downstairs just shook his head and said no one by that name lived there. I was panicking, legit sick to my stomach. Then finally she texted me, said she was so sorry, said she'd been mugged and her phone was broken, and she'd been staying with a cousin outside the city. I was just so relieved to hear from her that I didn't care. She asked if I could send money for a bus ticket back. I did. She never showed up. I waited at that bus station for hours. I didn't even realize I'd been scammed until a guy from the hostel saw me there and asked why I looked like I'd been punched in the soul, and when I told him, he just nodded and said, "She got you too, huh?" Turns out May's real name was probably something else entirely, and she'd been working that scam for years. She'd sleep with tourists, get them invested emotionally, then invent a string of emergencies until they either ran out of money or caught on. I went back to her bar a few days later, and there was a new girl behind the counter, who looked at me like she already knew my whole story. Then she said, "You want pad thai?" I said no and left, and that was the end of it. I never got my money back. It wasn't even that much in the end, maybe a few $100s, but it felt like more because she'd stolen something else too, something I hadn't even realized I was giving her. Hope. That maybe I wasn't just another guy drifting through other people's lives, maybe someone had finally seen me. But she didn't. She just saw a mark. And now whenever I think about Bangkok, I don't think about the temples or the noodles or the sunsets over the river. I think about her smile, and how long it took me to realize it was fake. I've always been the kind of guy who talks too much at the bar. Not the loud, obnoxious type, but the one who tells a story, and then another, until someone's either laughing or checking their phone. I know people like me. We're the ones who make it through the night by being interesting enough to keep around, but never so serious that anyone asks us how we're actually doing. That's what dating apps were for me. A stage, a slot machine, a mirror, all at once. I wasn't out there looking for a soulmate. I wasn't even looking for connection, not really. I wanted friction. I wanted reaction. I wanted the little dopamine hit when someone matched with me, the pixelated affirmation that I still had spark. I chased chaos, not love. Love was slow. Chaos was instant. Love wanted you to call your mom back. Chaos just wanted you to swipe right and see what happened. And I saw a lot. I saw divorcees trying to start over with new teeth and old wounds. I saw coworkers pretending they didn't know me. I saw married women using fake names and burner profiles, looking for something they swore they'd never want. And I played along. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't predatory. I was just curious. And curiosity, in this ecosystem, is a slippery slope paved with emojis and half-truths. I matched with a girl once who turned out to be my old high school math teacher. Another time, I met a woman who brought her husband to the date and asked if I was comfortable being watched. I dated a girl for 6 weeks before learning she was using me as revenge currency against her ex. But none of those stories are the one that broke me. That one started on a Thursday, and it ended in a food court. It was a regular night. Pizza box on the table. TV humming something forgettable. I opened Tinder out of habit, thumb already twitching like it had muscle memory. Swipe. 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 Then I saw her. Her name was Ally on the profile. But that wasn't her name. I knew her. She was my friend's girlfriend. Let's call him Danny. Solid guy. We played rec league softball together. He hosted cookouts. Lent me jumper cables once in February. And here was his girlfriend. Not a photo that looked like her, not a maybe, her. Her face. Her dog. Her car. Her smile. Same wall color as their apartment in the background. I blinked. Closed the app. Reopened it. Still there. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. My brain split in two, one half screaming walk away, the other whispering just find out. I swiped right, and the match hit instantly, like she'd been waiting. I didn't message. I waited. My palms were sweating. A full minute passed before her message came in. Hey, smiley face. That smiley face felt like a punch in the stomach. I replied, hey, you look kinda familiar. She wrote back, do I? Haha. New account, smiley face. I wanted to believe it wasn't her, but every detail checked out. The car, the dog, the way she used too many exclamation points but always lowercase, I. She was playing dumb, and I was playing along. We messaged for 2 days. I tested her, asked if she liked this local sushi place I knew they went to. She said it was her favorite. I asked if she had a dog. She sent a photo of the same pit bull I'd scratched behind the ears 3 weeks ago. I asked if she wanted to meet. She said yes. Food court, Wednesday, by the pretzel stand. I couldn't eat that day. I paced. I changed shirts twice. I didn't tell anyone, not because I felt guilty, but because I didn't know what I was walking into. Was it a trap? Was she playing me? Was I about to confirm something that would blow up our entire social circle? I arrived early, ordered a soda, sat near the pretzel place, heart pounding. She walked in like it was a regular day. Hoodie, jeans, no makeup. I stood up. She froze. Her face went from calm to defensive in seconds. Hey, I said. So what's going on? She blinked. What are you doing here? You matched with me. This is you, right? She crossed her arms. This is a setup. What? You set me up. My mouth went dry. You're on Tinder. You're harassing me. She said it louder. People turned. A mall cop started walking toward us. I tried to explain. I tried to keep my voice low and even. But she pulled out her phone, trembling just enough to look scared. She deleted the app right in front of me, held the icon, clicked the X, poof, and then called Danny. He's here. He followed me. He's saying weird stuff. I stood there like an idiot, like a man who just realized he'd stepped into a theater and become the villain in someone else's script. 20 minutes later, Danny showed up with some friends. Faces I knew. Faces I'd played poker with. They stood around me like I was a rabid dog. I said I'd matched with her. I said I thought it was fake. I said I just wanted to find out the truth. They didn't believe me. She stood behind them, arms folded, watching like a judge. Then one guy, Marcus, I think, pulled me aside. She does this, he said. You're not the first. I looked at him. She cheats. Everyone knows. Danny doesn't want to see it. Then they left. All of them. She walked away, still on the phone, still pretending. And I stood in a mall food court, holding a soda cup I didn't want, while the janitor wiped down tables like nothing had happened. That was the end for me. Not just of dating apps. Of the game. Of the thrill. Of the little voice that used to say, what if she's the one? Because I realized something that night. The apps didn't just erode trust, they erased the concept of shared reality. You could match with someone you knew, and they could pretend they didn't know you. You could catch someone in a lie, and they could make you look insane for pointing it out. The apps made everyone actors, made every date a scene, every conversation a script, and I was tired of pretending. I deleted everything that night. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, even the weird ones. I logged out and turned off my phone and sat in silence, trying to remember what real connection felt like. I haven't dated since. Not because I'm angry, because I'm afraid. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of walking into another performance I can't control. Afraid of being the only one still playing by rules that no longer exist. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I was arrogant. But I used to believe that honesty mattered. Now I just believe in distance. And quiet. So it was that gray sky, cold coffee, inbox full of nothing kind of day. I opened the app out of boredom, not hope. I'd grown past that optimistic version of myself. But then there he was, Adewale. Call me Whale, he'd written in his bio. We talked and talked until 2 a.m. About music, politics, how London feels loneliest on weekends. He told me he was from Lagos, had been in the UK just over a year, working in tech placement and taking business classes at night. There was a calm to him, a steadiness. He didn't try to impress me. He didn't have to. That Friday, we met at a cafe in Camden. I was early, nervous, halfway out the door twice. Then he walked in, taller than I expected, warm eyes, coat too big for the weather. He carried a poetry book under his arm. When he saw me, he smiled like we were old friends meeting again. We talked for hours. He ordered tea, corrected the waitress gently when she mispronounced his name, and asked me questions that weren't just waiting for his turn to speak. I told him about my mom's illness, and he didn't flinch. I told him I hadn't been in love in years, and he said, maybe love's just waiting for you to recognize it again. 6 weeks later, he told me he loved me. We were on the sofa watching a documentary about migratory birds. I was mid-sentence when he said it, soft, like he'd been holding it in so long he couldn't anymore. I love you, he said. Just that. No build-up. No drama. I said it back like it had been waiting on my tongue the whole time. We were married 4 months after that. It wasn't extravagant. A civil ceremony, a few friends, dinner at a Turkish place down the street. He said he didn't want to wait. Why delay something that feels right? I agreed. I'd spent years second-guessing everything, and suddenly here was someone who made things feel simple. My friends were skeptical but polite. My sister asked, "Are you sure?" My dad, who never liked anyone I dated, said, "He seems like a good man." And for a while he was. He moved in. We shared a bed and a Sunday crossword routine. He sang while washing dishes. He brought me breakfast when I worked late. He kissed me like he meant it. But then slowly it changed. It started with the letters. Brown envelopes from the home office. I asked about them, and he brushed it off. Just paperwork, he said. Routine stuff. He kissed my forehead and said he'd explain it all later. Then came the late nights. Study group, he'd say. Or networking. I wanted to believe him. I did. But something new started growing in me. A quiet, gnawing worry I couldn't name. He became careful with his phone. It used to live face up on the table. Now it stayed in his pocket. Password protected. No vibrations, no notifications. When I asked about it, he smiled too quickly. "You're overthinking, babe. You always do this." I started paying attention. I had to. A co-worker of his mentioned he hadn't been in the office for weeks. He'd said he was working overtime. Then there were the bank statements, transfers to Nigeria, always just under £1,000. I tried to tell myself it was for family. He'd mentioned a brother, a sick aunt. But when I brought it up, he changed the subject. Every time. One night, he left his laptop open. I wasn't planning to snoop. I swear. I was looking for a recipe I'd bookmarked months ago. That's how I found the folder. Docs. At first, I thought it was ours, our wedding license maybe. But the name wasn't mine. The date wasn't our wedding date. The woman in the attached photograph wasn't me. I clicked through more files. Emails. Screenshots. Conversations in pidgin. Talk of paperwork, residency, backup plans. My head started ringing. My hands went cold. I sat at the kitchen table for 2 hours, laptop open, trying to make it make sense. I wanted there to be a reasonable explanation. I wanted it to be a mistake. But it wasn't. When he came home, I didn't even say hello. He saw the laptop and knew. I could see it in his eyes, that flicker, that tightening. "You went through my things," he said. No panic. No apology. Just that. "You're married," I said. "Already. You married me while you were still married to someone else." He sighed. Not like he'd been caught, but like he was tired of the conversation already. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" "It's complicated." "No, it's not. You lied. You used me." He didn't argue. He didn't cry. He didn't even ask me to forgive him. He just packed a bag and left. I didn't stop him. I couldn't. I sat in the same chair until morning, staring at the spot where his keys used to hang. I didn't cry. Not that night. I think I was too stunned, too hollowed out to feel anything. The tears came later in waves, in the queue at Tesco, in the middle of brushing my teeth, in the voicemail I left for my sister that started with "Don't freak out" and ended in heaving sobs. I told my family. My dad went quiet in the way that meant, "I told you so." My sister came over with wine and rage. My friends tried to help. "You didn't know," they said. "He fooled everyone." They meant well. But it didn't help. Because here's what no one says. Betrayal isn't just about what they did. It's about what you let happen. It's about every red flag you painted white. Every moment you doubted your gut and called it love. I filed for annulment. Reported him to the Home Office. They sent me forms to confirm the marriage's validity. I wrote every word with shaking hands. I told them the truth. I sent them the emails. His other marriage certificate. Everything. Then I heard nothing. He disappeared. Deleted his socials. Changed numbers. Vanished like he was never here. But I was still here. Still in the flat where we'd hung our wedding photo. Still sleeping on one side of the bed, out of habit. Still jumping when the doorbell rang. I started therapy. My therapist said, "You're grieving not just him, but the version of yourself that believed in him." And God, was she right? If nostalgia had a temperature, it would be the lukewarm hum of neon signs bleeding into cracked windshield glass. It would smell faintly of spilled tequila, old leather, and a perfume that no longer exists. That's how it felt the night I saw Lisa again, like a dream left too long in the sun. I had been living in that town like an old bookmark, forgotten but wedged in place. 15 years of repetition, where the same waitresses learned your order before your name, and the same bar stools knew the curve of your spine. Dating was less about romance, and more like reruns of a sitcom you once loved, but grew embarrassed to admit. And then there she was, on my phone screen, her face no longer the one I remembered humming along to Matchbox 20 in my passenger seat. No, this Lisa wore rebellion, like it was sewn into her skin. Blood-red hair, a half-sleeve tattoo, piercings like punctuation marks on a sentence I thought had long since ended. I hadn't seen that name, her name, in 3 years. Not since we parted with a handshake and a half-smile, the kind of break that felt clean until it wasn't. And yet I swiped right. Maybe it was the gravity of unfinished stories. Maybe it was loneliness wrapped in digital lipstick. Maybe I just wanted to see if she'd changed the same way I had. She messaged first. A laughing emoji. "Didn't expect to see you here." I replied too quickly. We agreed to meet at the Millard, our old haunt, the place where the wallpaper still curled near the booths and the jukebox never got updated past 2007. She suggested it. I said yes. Like it was a test I already knew I'd fail but couldn't help but take. The date was set for Thursday. I spent the next 3 nights trying to remember the version of her I used to know, and wondering who I'd meet instead. The first bad sign came in whispers. She only messaged after midnight, as though daylight exposed something she didn't want me to see. But I ignored it. Curiosity has a way of dressing itself up as hope. I arrived early as always. The parking lot was half empty, the kind of quiet that wraps around you too tightly. The Millards sign buzzed like it had a secret. I chose the booth in the back, as far from the door as possible. And then I saw her. Lisa. Not the Lisa from 3 years ago. This woman had the same bone structure, but none of the softness. Her hair was brittle, split at the ends, dyed too many times without care. Her eyes were too wide, darting, like someone half awake in the middle of a nightmare. Her clothes were stylish in theory, tight jeans, combat boots, a mesh top, but there was a grime to her, visible in the way she held herself, like she hadn't truly rested in weeks. She smiled when she saw me. A big, toothy grin that didn't reach her eyes. She hugged me too tightly, and her skin was cold and damp like the inside of a forgotten cave. "You look the same," she said, scanning me like a security camera. "But better. Look at you all grown up." I laughed nervously. "You look different, but in a good way." Her laugh was loud, too loud, like a cymbal crash in a church. "Yeah, I've been through a few things. New cities. New frequencies. I'm on a whole new wavelength now." We ordered drinks. She got a double tequila soda. I got a beer. Conversation started normal enough. She'd been to Austin, she said. Then maybe Denver. Then she mentioned the moon being a surveillance device implanted by the handlers. She said it like she was telling me the weather. I watched her scratch at her neck, her arms, the side of her face. Not like she was itchy, like she was trying to peel something off. She leaned in close, eyes dilated like a pupil test gone wrong. "You ever feel like we're being watched?" I paused. "You work nights or something? Your messages only come in after midnight." She leaned even closer, her breath sour with old citrus and something I couldn't name. "Sleep is a trap. I only rest when I black out. That's how they stopped tracking me." I laughed, a short, confused sound. She didn't. By our second round, I started mentally rehearsing my exit. She went to the bathroom. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. When she returned, her nose was bleeding slightly, and her eyeliner was smeared like bruises made of ink. She downed her drink in one gulp, ordered another. "You don't trust me, do you?" she asked, grinning. "You think I'm just some cracked-out girl, huh? Don't worry. I'm not using the bad stuff anymore. Just maintenance. Stuff to keep the aura clean. Lisa, are you okay?" She froze. Her smile collapsed like wet paper. "What kind of question is that? I mean, are you in a good place?" She didn't answer. Just stood and went to the bathroom again. I sat there, half-finished pint in front of me, and watched the bartender give me a look that said, "Good luck, buddy." When Lisa returned, her lipstick was gone, and her eyes looked like broken glass. "I missed you," she whispered, slow and syrupy. "They didn't want me to contact you, though. They said you were one of them." "One of who?" "The handlers. From before." "Lisa, what are you talking about?" She didn't answer. She touched my hand. Her fingers were ice, and her nails were caked with dirt. "I think I'm gonna head out," I said, trying to be polite. "I've got work early." No, she said, eyes wide. "We just got started. Let's go back to your place. I want to see it again." "I don't think that's a good idea." Her smile cracked. "Why?" "It just doesn't feel right." She blinked, confused. Then, without warning, she threw her drink into my face. Tequila stung my eyes. Glass bounced off my temple. "You're one of them," she screamed. "You set me up. You __." She lunged. Nails caught my face. I shoved her off, blood dripping down my cheek. The room seemed to freeze. The bartender grabbed the phone. Lisa screamed about drones, about betrayal, about beams of light. I bolted. Gravel scattered beneath my tires like applause. She burst out of the bar screaming my name, one boot missing, mascara streaking like war paint. She ran at my truck, stumbled, and hit the gravel face first. I drove off, heart slamming, vision blurry with fear and tequila. When I got home, I locked the door, turned off all the lights, and sat in silence. The scratches on my face throbbed. My shirt was soaked, but it wasn't the pain that kept me pacing. It was the voice still in my ears. The look in her eyes. That wasn't just a bad date. That wasn't someone having an off night. That was someone hollowed out and filled with static. She knew where I lived. I blocked her number, deleted the app, logged out of everything, slept with a pocket knife under my pillow, Not because I thought she'd come back, but because I didn't know what she was capable of. The next morning, there was nothing. No messages. No notes. Just silence. And I thank God for it. I never saw Lisa again.